Hello and welcome to a short presentation on digital pedagogy. My name is René, I am representing Ludus XR, and today we're going to talk about how to use video games in teaching and in classes. Before we begin, I have to say that this video has been recorded as a part of a EU-funded project called Digital Natives for a Green Future. There will be a link in the description as to how to get more information about this project. In this video, we're going to talk about gaming culture, so establishing the knowledge of what is gaming culture and everything that surrounds it. Next, we're going to look at communities and everything that follows with that, all the behavior and all the toxic behavior. Then we're going to talk about learning by gaming, which is the expertise of Ludus XR, educational games simply. Lastly, we're going to talk about learning adventures, which is how you as a teacher can start implementing games and gaming into your teaching. But why is this important? Let's justify it for a second. Computer games, console games, mobile games, any type of game really, they're becoming a large part of everyday life for children. A game can be a fantastic opportunity for children and young people. They can strengthen creativity, cooperation, and self-esteem if they're used correctly. And they also can strengthen existing relationships between people or establish completely new ones. However, we also need to be aware that there are some pitfalls and some dark sides in the gaming culture these days, in the form of, for example, aggressive business models, or harsh language between players, or some financial crimes indeed when trading virtual valuables. When we at Ludus XR make educational games, either in EU projects or commercially, we need also to be aware of the fact that we are competing with a large group of companies which already are competing for the attention of the children. And you need to be aware of that as a teacher as well. So what is gaming culture? Well, first of all, it is the games. You can see I've made a small list of some of the most popular games that are played now. I have also put in our competition. If you remember, I told you that games today compete for the attention. And these are the games that we compete with when we try to make games with an educational purpose. The gaming culture has also become much more than just games themselves. It is also the platforms where you buy the games, because these also house communities today. Here you can see some of the most popular gaming platforms that are available today. Many of these are PC based, but you also have Xbox and PlayStation being major players on this. Some stores even have specialties within different areas. For example, itch.io is indie games, where GOG stands for Good Old Games, and they specialize in bringing classic or abandoned games to new systems. We also have what we call the peripheral platforms. This is mostly where the communities meet and discuss, or it could be where players can follow streamers or YouTubers who play the same games as they do. It is also a way for players to watch gameplay of a game before they decide to make a purchase. So when we wrap up what gaming culture is, it is all of this. It is not only the games and what takes place in them, but it is also everything that surrounds them. It is estimated that there is 618 million gamers in the world under the age of 18, and that is only 20% of all estimated gamers in the world, and it is a number that continues to grow. As in life, in games, it is very important to keep a good tone. Unfortunately, that's not always what happens. I brought a few examples of language that you may meet, and I have to warn you, if you are faint of heart, you may want to skip this part. A study done by a Danish news agency showed that 72% of all children have experienced a harsh tone within gaming. Actually so harsh that it affects them in their personal life. The issue being that they don't always tell their parents about these episodes. The messages also seem to be very common, unfortunately. So who's responsible for keeping the good tone? Well, it shouldn't come as a surprise that we all are. In fact, we argue that teachers and moderators have a lot in common. Moderators moderate the tone in online communities, while teachers make sure the mood in the class doesn't become toxic. The head of the Danish Treatment Center for Gaming and Online Addiction argues that because there are no adults present in these online communities, there has been no one but the children themselves to set the tone. So basically, when you boil it down, it becomes more or less the Wild West. The concept of learning through a game is actually not a new concept. The popular board game Monopoly was made in 1904 and was meant to teach wealth concentration. If we fast forward 90 years, here in Denmark the first commercially successful education game was released. These games became popular because of the introduction of the home computer, and from the course of 1994 until 2010, over 16 games were made. In these games, smaller children could learn how to read, do basic math through mini-games and even songs. However, the first games, they had poor didactics or just bad quality in general, but the theory of learning through gaming, or at least learning while having fun, was there. Activities became disguised as fun, and edutainment as a concept appears for the first time. Games often follow trends, just like everything else, and educational games will also follow the trends that the entertainment-based ones do. In order to successfully use games in your teaching, it would be a good idea to familiarize yourself with the popular games. It could make the students more comfortable when playing. A well-made game with fun elements is also a lot easier to sell, but you have to be sure what it is you want to teach with the game before you begin. And always follow up and evaluate. That's the key to measure the effectiveness of the game session. But the reason we can learn through gaming is because they move us. How do they move us? It could be through telling stories, it could be by offering us experiences that we won't soon forget, providing challenges, or even transferring knowledge from something that's supposed to be fun to a real-world application. Think about the last time you were affected by any kind of media. It could be a movie that made you sad, or it could be a football game that made you burst out in cheer. This is where immersiveness plays a big role. It can make our games fun and engaging, and it can teach students without even knowing they're being taught. It can be useful for some of the less fun subjects in school. The transferable knowledge is when we either give or change the context for learning material. So it could be the theme, the setting, or the goal. A good game teacher knows what their class needs. The ambition should always be set after what the class needs. So it's fine to start slowly. If something doesn't work in the class, that's just how it is. You have to change the approach then. And there are different approaches. You can start text-based. It could be a book with multiple endings. You can try gamification, where you add game elements like points to an existing task. You can have the class create board games around subjects. And if you're advanced, you can design a purpose-made video game for your class. Like mentioned before, reflection is key to making games in class work, and it can be done either after a game or by making room inside the game for it. The important thing is to make the students think not how they did it, but why they did as they did. Keep the questions open to get a discussion going. Maybe somebody had a different perspective to solving a problem. Students will also likely reflect while playing anyway. And as a teacher, you will find out that you're not all-knowing. Try using the reflections by asking, could we use this game in a different subject? Try not to dictate too much like how the student should think. It's more satisfying when a student becomes aware that he or she actually has understood the subject by completing a game. So if you do consider yourself a game teacher, what level are you? The first level is game literacy, meaning that you know which games have educational value, and they don't need much support other than with the actual assignments within the game. Level 2 is when you can facilitate gaming. Teachers may play a more active role. Here the teacher have enough knowledge about an existing game to give certain tasks in that game and make it fit within the subject, and afterwards evaluate in the class. In level 3, a teacher will most likely start looking for new games that fit specifically within the subject that's being taught. That's what we call the high game literacy. Level 4 is when you can begin to build your own learning adventures, meaning you actually start to develop your own games, digital or physical, that doesn't matter, but you are yourself building a path of learning. You do not have to get to level 4 in order to be successful with gaming in classes. Being level 1 is completely fine. But it is up to us to advocate the use of games. So to round up, games are not here to replace the old methods. Proven concepts can be good in many cases. They can be even better than a digital tool. Some of the concepts we've spoken about today are still fairly young and are still in development, so nothing is set in stone. You'll also encounter a lot of trial and error, and it's important to note what the games do for your class, so you'll know when it works and when it doesn't. So all in all, it's something that teachers must develop together. And we at Ludus are certainly glad that you came to us to seek the knowledge. That concludes our presentation. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you gained a little bit of new knowledge. Most of all, we hope you were encouraged to start using gaming in your classes. If you want to know more about what we do, you can look at our website or find us on social media. Take care